You are from Sydney, you've lived there for a very long time, you've done all your journalism there. Would you say that the Sydney cricket ground public, the ones in the lower tier, as Ashwin mentioned, they're particularly nasty?
Rika, thank you for having me. And look, I wouldn't say it's everybody, of course, but as we know with these things, it only takes a very small minority to ruin it for everybody and to give a really bad reputation, not just to a ground and to a sport, but also to a city and a nation. And unfortunately, that is something that we have had to wrestle with for many years now, as many of your previous cricketers have told you. They've suffered it here before. People continue to suffer racism here in Australia. I know that the Australian cricket team has done quite a lot themselves. They've been on quite a personal journey in the past year or so, as have many people. That is in no way offering any excuse for the behaviour of some portions of the crowd. But it's a thing that must always be called out. It must always be addressed. And let's hope that we get to the bottom of this instance very quickly. And the people who have been accused of racist abuse are dealt with sufficiently.
Tracy, I really have to ask you, this incident is not a standalone incident that happened today. There have been complaints coming in from the Indian cricket team over the last 3 days, in fact, and they have been talking to the match officials. But the ones who were there were not evicted. Do the police who stand there wait for directives from Cricket Australia to evict the public, or can they do it on their own? Because today was for the first time that 6 people were evicted from the stadium.
Yeah, Rika, I think that's a really good point, and I think that is something that perhaps the Indian Border Control will bring up with Cricket Australia, and Cricket Australia must have those discussions with not just the New South Wales Police that look after security at venues like the SCG, but also with Venues New South Wales that operate the security services at all of their venues. Now, I know for a fact that Venues New South Wales has also come out quite strongly this afternoon and said that anybody who's been found guilty of racist abuse will be banned from the SCG, and they will also be banned from every other venue that Venues New South Wales as an organisation looks after. But I think that is a really good point, and I think it's something, a discussion that needs to be had amongst all of those groups so that you don't have to wait for a player to suffer this sort of abuse to then make a complaint for any action to be taken. We heard some of your guests previously talking about the fact that people sitting around them should actually call this behaviour out and say that enough is enough, and this is not what's expected in 2021.
Right. Tracy, we've also been hearing about, Cricket Australia looking for video footage from the stands where people have been abusing the players. What are the chances of these video footage emerging? Because it's a huge ground and not all the areas inside the ground are covered.
No, that's right. But we know what the era of social media is like, don't we? There's always somebody with a phone on somebody else, especially if you're making racist allegations, as has been alleged, and especially if people are being rather loud in their demeanour. There's always someone with a camera trained on you. I read in one report that, in fact, as the police started to arrive, there was one particular person that was sitting near this group that took off up the stairs in a different direction. So we know that, people around them were listening, and we can only hope that the sort of evidence that is required does come forward.
Right. Let me go over to Rajdeep Thakur, who joins me from Melbourne. Rajdeep, you follow the Indian cricket team in Australia. Have you seen such incidents in other venues? And as an Indian fan, how do you react to it?
Look, Rika, I think it's very unfortunate that has happened for the last 2 days. As Indian fans, and we travel across the country following the team, and we have these core values in us, which is definitely respect and loyalty and passion. And when I talk respect, I talk about respect to all the players, the teams, and the other fans in the stadium. So there has to be banter, definitely, because if there's not banter, then 5 days of game in the sun, you won't enjoy yourselves and the entertainment won't be there. But there's a thin line that has to be drawn when you talk about banter and abuse to anyone.